by dragging a window or dragging an icon in from the dock. You can also go to the app switcher and hold on a window to add it to the group. If you have a hard time doing the gestures, you can also add a window to the group by tapping the three dots menu in the top and selecting Add Another Window. If you tap on an app icon in the dock, it'll switch to whatever group that app is in. Tap on a group of windows to the left to switch it out. All the windows in that group will come forward. To rearrange them, you can just drag an app by the top title bar to move it around. Drag the bottom corner of an app, whichever side has the rounded grab handle on it, to resize it. Other apps on screen will shuffle around so that they aren't ever totally hidden. If you drag an app to cover up the dock or the stacks of windows to the left, you can always drag in from that edge to show them again. So that is how to use multitasking and Stage Manager on the iPad. If you learned something from this video, remember to like and subscribe. You can find a bunch more articles on how to get the most out of your iPad linked in the video description. Thanks to Ed Hardy for the video footage. I'm D. Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.
All right, so like I said, I don't know how many of you have or use iPads. I use mine all the time, and I think it's kind of easy to forget some of the gestures if you don't constantly use them like anything else. And so I thought that might come in handy if you have an iPad.
The iPad is a...
All right, one of the things you can do is if on your Apple Watch, you can enable hourly chimes, but you don't have to have them as an actual sound. They can be a taptic thing that you can feel on your watch. And so like I have that set where every hour I'll get 2 little quick vibrations on my watch, and I just know it's, changed hours. So to do this, you find this under the accessibility option, and you can set it for hourly, half hour, or quarter hour alerts. And if you want it to sound, you can select between 2 different sounds, bells or birds. And that only works obviously when when you're set to ring on your watch. So to do this, go to the settings app on your watch and then swipe down till you get to accessibility, and then click on accessibility and then swipe down again and choose chimes. And then you've got to toggle the chimes position to the on position. And then under the schedule there, you will select hourly, every 30 minutes or every 15 minutes, whatever you would like. And then again, as I said, under the sounds, you can choose bells or birds. And again, it'll only sound if you've got your actual sound on the watch enabled. Otherwise, you're just going to get 2 quick short vibrations whenever that time amount comes along. So I like having it. It's just a little handy thing. I don't even have to look at my watch. I know what it is based on the vibration pattern. All right, one new feature with Apple Cash is you can now pay using Apple Cash. You can actually get a temporary debit card number. So if you want to make a purchase online with your Apple Cash, you can do this. So previously, you could only pay with your Apple Cash by using Apple Pay. And now you get a virtual card number, and that virtual number, and it'll create that and a security code. This also will change regularly without you doing anything. And so the idea of it changing is that it makes it like, I don't want to say it's impossible because nothing's impossible, but very hard for your card information to be stolen. And if you do suspect there's a problem, you can refresh to get a new card number anytime you want. And your card information will actually be stored inside of Safari's autofill, so you don't have to remember anything about this. And I'll show you how you set this up. So first thing is, and presumably you'd be doing this on your phone. I mean, you can do this on other devices, but I was just, you can do it on a Mac, but I was going through with the phone on this. So you got to make sure you're up to date on 17.4. Then you got to go to your wallet and you open the Apple Cash card. And when you're in that, you want to click on the little menu. It's the 3 dots in the upper right, and then it'll drop down a menu, and you click on card number in that drop down menu. Then when you click, after you click card number, you're going to tap on set up virtual card number, and a little screen's going to pop up, and it's going to explain how it works. and then you're going to hit the little blue continue there. And then what it's going to make you do is you're going to have to authenticate using Face ID to confirm you want this done, and then you tap done. And so now you're ready to use it to pay with something in Safari. And so when you go to pay in Safari and you click on the credit card field, Apple Cash will appear as one of the list of cards that you can use. So just like if you do that already now, if you pay online and you use one of your other cards that pops up there, you'll now have Apple Cash. You just tap on it and it'll authenticate with Face ID, and then it'll fill everything in for you. You can also enter your virtual Apple Cash card number manually by copying and pasting it from the wallet app. To do this, you just go into the wallet, select the Apple Cash card, click on card number, and you'll see the full card number, expiration date, and security code. And then you just select those and copy them into any fields in Safari. And so it's pretty simple. I tried it once and it was pretty straightforward. And if you do need to get a new number, just go back to Wallet, to Apple Cash, click those three little dots on the menu and go to card number and authenticate with Face ID. And then you just tap on request new card number. You'll have to confirm it, and you get a new number. And again, it'll authenticate with Face ID, and it generates that. And one thing that might put some of your minds at ease using this is that each time you open Wallet or use Safari autofill, a new security code is automatically generated. And this code is good for 24 hours before it expires. So that code will constantly change. All right. So last month I shared with you guys some things you could do with an old iPhone. And along with that, I had seen 6 things you can do with an old Mac. So in that theme, I thought I would share this with you as an ongoing.
It used to be when your old iMac kicked the can, you turned it into an aquarium or a desk lamp. These days, Macs last so long that you can get years of loyal service out of it. I don't even know what you turned it into anyways, an ant farm. So today I'm going to run through 6 things you can do with an old Mac that you have sitting around. Starting with number 1, running old apps and software. Microsoft keeps backwards compatibility for features in Windows almost to its detriment, but Apple isn't afraid to kill old features in order to keep the operating system modern. This last happened with macOS 10.15 Catalina, which dropped all support for old 32-bit applications. But if you keep around an old Intel Mac running macOS 10.14 Mojave, the release from a year before, you can still use all the apps that you might want to use for work or play all the old games you might want to play. If you've already updated it to Catalina, don't worry, there's still something you can do. If you follow these instructions here, this will let you install macOS Mojave on a separate disk that you can reboot your Mac into. I plan on doing this on my old 2015 MacBook Pro so that I can go back to playing American Truck Simulator. You partition the hard drive, you download the macOS Mojave installer from the Mac App Store, you install it on the empty disk, and then when you want to reboot, you hold down the Option key. This will let you pick which operating system you boot into. Number 2, Plex lets you roll your own streaming service for movies and shows that you have definitely legally downloaded onto your computer. This is a great cause for bringing an old Mac out of retirement because you don't want to install it on your main computer if you have a laptop that you carry with you. If you want Plex running all the time so you can access it no matter what, you'll want to install it on a secondary Mac, ideally one that's plugged in over Ethernet to your router for the best stable connection. So you install Plex Media Server on your old Mac, you let it scan in all of your shows and movies, and then using the regular Plex app, you can watch them from anywhere, from your iPhone and iPad, Apple TV, Vision Pro, Xbox, PlayStation, Roku, Google TV, Fire TV, anywhere. A lifetime Plex pass is $119.99, which does sound expensive at first, but consider that it's less than the cost of a single year of a single streaming service, and it can replace several other streaming services in your life. So it's kind of worth it when you put it that way. And another side benefit is that running Plex on a secondary Mac that isn't your main machine. Hopefully you've, wiped all of your personal data off of it. You're not putting any of your personal data at risk if you hit up some dodgy BitTorrent sites. Number 3, if you have an old iMac with a big, beautiful display, very often outlasts the computer inside, but you don't have to put the whole thing to waste. Using Luna Display by AstroPan, you buy their adapter and you download their app, and suddenly you've converted your old iMac into a 27-inch display for your regular day-to-day computer. You might even consider buying an iMac for this express purpose. It's the same exact display panel that goes in Apple's $1,600 studio display, but you can buy a secondhand 5K iMac for much cheaper on eBay. Apple actually used to support this out of the box with a feature called Target Display Mode. If your main Mac is from before 2020, running macOS Catalina or earlier, and your donor iMac is between 2009 and 2014, running macOS High Sierra or earlier, then you can do this for free. All you need is a Thunderbolt cable. It only works with those specific combinations, but if it can work, go for it. Number 4, there's some other basic features your old Mac might be able to do as a home server. You can use it to host Time Machine backups or to share a printer over your local network. With Time Machine, you can set up all of the Macs in your house to back up automatically, silently, and wirelessly every day. You don't have to remember to do it yourself. You don't have to pester your kids into doing it too. And using an old Mac as the destination, none of the Macs that people use every day will be bogged down by collecting all of these backups. You can follow Apple's instructions here to turn it on in System Preferences Sharing. If you have an old and reliable, trusty yet dusty printer in your home, hold on to it for dear life. Modern printers are an absolute shit show, but you can use your Mac server to enable it as a wireless printer, so you have all of the same modern conveniences. You set it up from the same System Preferences panel in the sharing menu. While you're at it, you'll also want to enable screen sharing. This way you can check in on the Mac to make sure everything is running smoothly without physically digging it out and plugging in a monitor. Number 5, if you still depend on an old Mac, but you're frustrated that you can't update it to the latest version of macOS, you actually might be able to. Open Core Legacy Patcher will let you update an old Mac beyond the prescribed limit. If you have the right hardware, in the most extreme case, you can update a 2007 iMac to the current version of macOS Sonoma. This can significantly extend the useful life of your Mac if you still need the current features. Granted, this comes at a cost. Your Mac will slow down significantly the more you try to stretch the limits. But if you don't depend on things like modern web browsing, maybe you just need to use a few desktop apps, it might work out for you. Number 6, you can go the opposite direction. If maybe your use cases are reversed, you still want to use your old Mac to browse the modern web, but you don't care so much about Apple's built-in features like iCloud, FaceTime, iMessage. You can install a lighter weight modern operating system like Linux. Ubuntu is one of the more popular distributions of Linux, and it's pretty easy to get running. You partition your hard drive in Disk Utility, you download the Ubuntu installer, put it on the empty disk, and then you reboot your Mac while holding the Option key. You pick Ubuntu, and then you're ready to go. It'll boot into that from now on. Keep in mind, though, that this only really works on an Intel Mac. There's an open source project that's trying to convert the entirety of Linux over to Apple Silicon, but that's still a long ways out from being completed. And you can install Linux on a PowerPC Mac that's even older, but there are some snags to look out for there as well. But I suspect that most of the Macs being replaced these days are Intel models. So if you have one sitting around, it's a great way to keep it modern. And that's my list of 6 things you can do with your old Mac. I'm D. Griffin Jones. It used to be when you're old.
All right. So I don't know how many of you, well, first, how many of you are familiar with live photos on your phone? Okay, some of you are. Okay. So, I think the thing that most people use live photos for is you take a picture and now you can scroll, back and forth to find the best moment that the picture was taken to get that picture just right. And, and you hit, make key photo when you find it. And a lot of people are used to using that slider, but there are also some other things that you can do with live photos. And so I thought I would share that with you. All right. The first thing, you can turn a live photo into a short video. So when you do when live photos is enabled on your camera, it'll record for 1 to 2 seconds after you press the button to take a picture. And as I said, you can turn this into a very short video. So if you have a picture here, as I'm showing you, in the upper right-hand corner, there's the 3 little dots. Click on that little menu there. And in the drop-down menu that comes up, select Save as Video. And so this is the video. This is the picture that I took. Here's the video. Okay, so it turns that into a little short video. You can create a GIF or GIF, if you prefer, from your photo. So this requires using shortcuts. And I know some of you might be loath to have to go into shortcuts to do something, but on your phone, launch the Shortcuts app, and in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, tap Gallery. And you're going to search for GIF in the search bar, and then you're going to click on the pink Make GIF box. Okay, and so you click on that, and then you're going to add shortcut. At the bottom there, that little blue button. And now it's going to be in the menu here, and you're going to tap Make GIF. And at the top of the screen, you're going to see where it says Photos and Albums, tap Album, and then scroll down under Media where it says Live Photos, and you tap the Live Photos there. And now you can select the photo you want to use, and you can click Done. So this was my son when we were at the Blues game getting an autograph from one of his players on his favorite team, the San Jose Sharks. And that's the picture I took. And now you can see that's the finished GIF that I made using this. And so you could do that with just about anything you wanted. Okay, they have features in there called Loop and also Bounce. So they're both found under the live drop-down menu that's in the upper left of a live photo. And so they do 2 different things. Okay, so the first one here, you can see that they're both there, live and loop. And if you select loop, this is what you'll get. It's just, it's using that same little live video, and it's just looping the same thing over and over and over. Now, the other thing, if you choose bounce, I think this is a little more interesting of an effect. It goes forward and then backward. So it's a fun little effect there you can use. And the final thing you can do under that same live drop-down menu in the upper left there is long exposure. Now, you guys have all seen long exposure photographs before. They look like the streak of stuff. And so it works better with like a moving object, but I just took, here's a concert photo, and I took that and then I did it, and you can see what you get. So it's taking that light and it's holding it open, and you're getting these kind of streaks. But I have played with some photos and gotten some cool effects, but it's not real easy to do. I definitely recommend on something that's moving. So for instance, there, I just took a picture of my faucet running water. And so you get those kind of streaks. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen long exposure photos of like, cars, and you see the streaks of light on the road, that kind of thing. So I think it definitely works better with something moving than a still image. But
a waterfall would be good, right?
Yeah, that would be kind of a cool thing, or maybe fireworks or something like that might be a fun thing to play with. So those are all things that you're going to find under live photos. And I don't think a lot of people know that this kind of stuff exists, other than just using that Make Key Photo slider there. All right. Apple Roadside Assistance. How many of you have an iPhone 14 or 15? Okay, a few of us do, not many, but okay. Well, because now Apple's offering roadside assistance, and I don't know if anybody's ever used it before, but I certainly haven't, and hope I don't have to. But here's just a little blurb on how this works.
If you're outside of cellular or Wi-Fi coverage and need roadside assistance for your car or truck, you can use roadside assistance via satellite to get help. Here's how. While you're outside of cellular or Wi-Fi coverage and see the satellite icon in the top right corner of your screen, in Messages, start a new message and enter roadside as the contact. Then tap Roadside Assistance. Tap Request Assistance. Now tap Roadside Assistance, or if you need emergency services, you can tap Emergency. Choose a roadside assistance provider. If you do not subscribe to the provider, you can still get assistance for a fee. Follow the directions on the next few screens to choose what you need assistance with. Confirm your contact info, then tap Continue. Or if you're not a subscriber, just tap Continue. Now follow the directions on your screen and move to a location with a clear view of the sky. As the satellite moves, you'll be guided by your iPhone to follow along. There may be gaps in satellite coverage, but you'll be told how long it will be until the next satellite is available. You'll automatically be connected with your roadside assistance provider. They'll message you directly and you can text back and forth about the assistance needed and any payment required. Help is on the way. Available on iPhone 14 and iPhone 15 in the US only. Free for 2 years with activation of a compatible device. Some sequences in this video were shortened. To learn more about how to use your iPhone, subscribe to our Apple Support YouTube channel or click another video to keep watching.
So that's kind of a handy little thing to have with you in case of an emergency. I think you guys have seen that before, but you know, kind of handy just to figure out how to use that. So if you're in that situation, you just text to roadside and it'll come up like that and you follow along there. Hopefully none of us will have to be using that.
If you're out
Okay, I came across an app called Unclack. And since we meet via Zoom, I thought, well, this is kind of handy. So as I put down here, if you've been in a video conference on your Mac and you're needing to type, but you're afraid your typing will make noise, the Unclack app resolves this issue by muting typing sounds while you're on the video conference so as not to disturb everyone else. And I thought this was a clever idea considering just how often we have video conferencing these days. So what it does when you've got it installed and turned on, when you begin typing, it mutes the mic. And then as soon as you finish typing, it'll unmute you so that, you know, you can talk and everything. And it basically saves you the hassle of having to go over and click the mute and unmute, you know, button while you're in a meeting. So after you install Unclack, it'll be in your menu bar on your Mac, and then you just click the icon and you can select configure keyboard access. And so it'll open up this preferences pane here. And you just click the permissions button. It wants to give you permission and everything. And then it'll take you to your Mac's accessibility page. And so you have to manually add Unclack to the list by pressing the plus bottom at the bottom of the list. And then, you know, you just have to select that from the apps list to add it. And then you have to restart the app. Once you've done this, now Unclack is working. And then you can just change in the settings how you want to set it. I've been using this myself. Like, I don't know if anybody noticed typing, but I can tell you, having been in a lot of Zoom, you know, video conferences or other video conferencing apps, that like I'm always, you know, wanting to type, but I'm like trying to do it slowly. I don't want people to sit there and hearing my clicking, or I mute myself. And so I found this and I thought it was just kind of a handy app to have. So you guys might want to check out that app, Unclack. By the way, when you're using it, you will see a red dot on the menu bar while you're typing. So it lets you know, like you can see that little red dot and it'll let you know that you're muted. And the settings will allow variable mute settings. Like you don't have to entirely mute yourself. You can just reduce that mic volume, maybe say 90 or 80% if you want. And if you need to talk while you're typing, just you click, you can pause on the menu bar up there, and you just pause unclack. And so you just have to make sure that you unpause it to re-enable it later. And it works with supposedly all video conferencing apps, and nobody will know that you're muted while it's doing this. So they, they can't tell that you're muted at that point. All right. I thought this was a kind of clever little thing that this guy did. This person posted. They made a iPhone shortcut to give them an audio briefing of the day as soon as they hit their alarm off in the morning. And so here's what it sounds and looks like.
Good morning, Diego. It's Sunday, March 31st. It's 11:58 a.m. in New York. Your phone is 84% charged. It's 13 degrees Celsius and mostly cloudy today. It feels like 12 degrees Celsius right now. I forecast 0 meters of rain and winds of 16.09 kilometers per hour. Air quality is good with a UV index of 3. Sunset will be at 7:20 p.m. No birthdays today. Have a great day.
And so that person just used the Shortcuts app to set this stuff up, which any of us could do if we wanted to. I don't know if you want all that information first thing in the morning when you wake up, but I don't think I need quite all that information, but it could tell you what do you have scheduled for today, or things like that. So I thought that was pretty clever. All right. And there you have it. Glenn's goodies.
Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Okay, next, the Department of Justice lawsuit against Apple, supposed monopoly. I'm not sure who's fielding that. Is that?
I've got the video here, Ron, that I'm going to share with everybody. And let me just get that ready. And I will share my screen to play that. And so John was the one who brought this video to my attention. John, what was it you said again that you liked about this video? You're muted, John.
John, you're muted.
I thought that in a very short time, she made a good summary of the case. And without really commenting too much one way or the other. So it seemed like it was balanced and well presented. Now, it might have been a bit oversimplified because it is quite a complex legal document. So she would have, of necessity, have had to maybe gloss over a few things. But I thought that it did a good job of capturing the lawsuit as a whole.
How many of you are familiar with this, by the way? Okay, some of you. Okay, well, then I will, I'll play this video for you. And hopefully you'll get to learn more from this.
The U.S. Department of Justice is suing Apple over.
Hold on, are you guys all seeing and hearing that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
What it calls an iPhone monopoly, and the government wants Apple to change the way Apple products are designed to work. The case revolves around the Apple ecosystem and this idea of the walled garden, where users can feel locked into staying with an iPhone when certain Apple services only work with Apple products, or how the Apple Watch only works with the iPhone, or how it can be difficult or expensive for users and app makers to leave the iPhone to use another app store. The lawsuit even calls out how tap to pay on the iPhone is also locked down to the Apple Wallet. In the 88-page lawsuit, prosecutors say Apple deployed what it called a playbook to keep the iPhone on top with its app store that would, quote, extract higher fees, thwart innovation, and offer a less secure or degraded user experience and throttle competitive alternatives. In a statement, Apple says, this lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets. If successful, it would hinder our ability to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple, where hardware, software, and services intersect. Apple goes on to say that this lawsuit would set a dangerous precedent, quote, empowering government to take a heavy hand in designing people's technology. The New York Times reports that Apple plans to file a motion to dismiss the case in the next 60 days. And Apple will emphasize that it is legal to adopt policies or designs that competitors may not like if it makes using the iPhone a better experience. This may become a landmark case, and the legal battle could stretch out for years. It could be similar to when the Department of Justice sued Microsoft in 1998, accusing Microsoft of monopolizing Internet Explorer for Windows. And it resulted in Microsoft changing its practice. But as for this case against Apple, the US government has joined forces with 15 states and the District of Columbia to lay out a number of examples of Apple hindering competition, and it sweeps across several of Apple's products. The lawsuit starts with a tale of an unnamed Apple executive who went straight to Steve Jobs in 2010 to complain about the way an ad showed a woman switching from her iPhone to an Android to use her Kindle e-reader. Prosecutors took a sharp jab at Jobs himself, saying that he was, quote, clear in his response. Apple would force developers to use its payment system to lock in both developers and users. The App Store is a big focus. It says Apple is imposing restrictions, fees, and taxes on how apps are created and distributed. The lawsuit points to how Apple blocks in-app payment methods. And another issue is around cloud streaming apps, claiming Apple prevented developers from offering cloud gaming apps that would reduce dependence on the iPhone. There's another focus around text messaging and how iMessage is made to be easier to use than other third-party messaging apps. And yes, the green versus blue bubble debate is part of this. The lawsuit claims iMessage undermines the quality and functionality of rival smartphones. When an iPhone user chats with someone on Android, it shows their chat bubble is green. And that means the person's conversation cannot be encrypted. Their videos shared are pixelated and grainy, and the users in those convos can't edit messages or see typing indicators. And it signals to a family that if they don't have an iPhone, well, the experience is worse. And the DOJ's argument is that Apple could change that. The lawsuit points to Apple executives that said moving iMessages to Android would hurt Apple. And CEO Tim Cook was also called out. Right when Apple launched the iPhone 14, Cook was on stage at Vox Media's Code 2022 conference. And on stage, he was asked if Apple could fix the iPhone to Android messaging problem so it would be easier to text seamlessly with a parent who has an Android phone. And to that, Cook said, buy your mom an iPhone. The lawsuit also goes into the Apple Watch, how it only works with the iPhone and not Android. And if you have another brand of smartwatch, your abilities of what it can do with the iPhone are limited. Certain notifications on the iPhone may not come through on another smartwatch, or a user may not be able to take the same actions like they could with an Apple Watch. There are complaints in this lawsuit about how Apple restricts cross-platform digital wallets, blocking other developers from making a digital wallet that has tap to pay. And the lawsuit also calls out Apple Pay for extracting fees from banks for transactions, saying that Samsung and Google do not charge banks. So what comes from all of this? Prosecutors are asking that a federal judge label Apple an unlawful monopoly, force Apple to stop engaging in anti-competitive practices. That could include forcing Apple to let the Apple Watch work with Android, or letting you tap to pay with an iPhone and use something besides Apple Pay. It could mean Apple would need to allow apps that work across platforms. And in the end, all of this could make it easier for consumers to switch their life over to Android, or mix and match their smart accessories or digital services with ones not made by Apple. And yes, it could be the end of the green and blue iMessage bubbles, or at least end some of the annoyances that happen when an iPhone user texts with an Android user. We will be hearing more about this over time, so be sure to subscribe as we keep following the developments. But for now, sound off in the comments about what are your first reactions to this lawsuit. Is the Apple walled garden a problem for you? Would you want to see something changed? Let us know, and thanks for watching.
Okay, you know, my personal opinion of this, and so we kind of hope we'd have maybe just a little discussion and see what people think of this. And admittedly, I'm biased because I use Apple products, but I think the lawsuit is ridiculous. The whole DOJ thing is ridiculous. I think if, you know, you're complaining that you don't like the way Apple does something, you have other options. You don't have to have an Apple phone. You don't have to use Apple devices. So, you know, when we call it a monopoly, I feel like we're stretching things a little bit on this, because you have choices. And as far as, well, I can't use my other devices with my Apple stuff, well, then don't use Apple stuff. That would be my reply. What do you guys think?
I just hope it doesn't hinder our actual Apple devices.
Well, I think if the DOJ gets their way, I think there will be some limitations put on Apple. So what that means, who knows? What do the rest of you guys think? What do you think? It's a good idea, bad idea? Where do you stand on it?
I'm thinking if I own a Mercedes Benz, should I be required to allow a Ford engine to be put in it? No. Mercedes Benz is quality. Apple products are quality. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And like you said, there are other competitive products out there. No one is holding a gun to consumers' head and say, you must buy an iPhone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Steve.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I wonder if Apple didn't make the right campaign donations.
Well, could be. You don't know. That's possible. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
There are some thoughts I have. It's understandable to me that if somebody wants to benefit from two-way encryption or end-to-end encryption on iMessages, that a person would need to use iMessage on both sides of the conversation. And if Apple wrote iMessage for iPhone, I'm not sure they should be obligated to write an iMessage application for Android necessarily. But other things, I do think that there may be some concerns with how Apple is doing things. On our Macintoshes, we're allowed to erase our Mac and restore an older version of the operating system if we choose to. So as long as it's not older than what existed when the machine was designed, which is fair. But so we can go back. If I upgrade my Mac to Ventura, I can go back to Monterey if I want. It might not be easy necessarily, because I have to deal with the hassle of putting my data in a safe place before doing so, and that's okay. The time machine don't have to work backwards to restore personal data from Ventura to Monterey if that's difficult for Apple to do. But on the iPhone, you're not allowed to install an older version of iOS to replace a newer version of iOS. If you are erasing an iPhone completely, I think it should be possible to install any valid version of iOS you want. If, for example, a person has an older phone, they update their iOS and they think it's running too slow or taking too much battery, or they see some bug they don't like or regret their update for any reason, they should be able to erase the phone and go back to an older version of iOS. So as long as that iOS version they're going to was compatible with their phone in the past in the first place. It should be like the Mac. I think Apple should be forced on that point.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Anybody else?
I also have a comment.
Yeah.
My comment is, I don't know if this is still true today, but if you and your friend have Apple phones, iPhones, and you text each other, and your friend, and you're on the iMessage with the blue bubbles, and your friend gets an Android phone, he quits using the Apple phone, he gets an Android phone, then at one point in time passes, I guess this was a bug, I don't even know if it's fixed, But once he when you text your friend and he has his new Android phone, your iPhone text messages don't reach him anymore because you're still in the blue bubbles. And his
they'll-
Android phone won't get the message.
I don't
No,
think that's
they'll go
true,
through.
Tammy. I checked a lot of people with green
This
bubbles and it works fine.
This was very
This is
specific
very
situation.
specific. This is very specific to your friend had an iPhone. They get rid of their iPhone and they switch to Android. This is when this situation happens. If they had an Android phone all along, it's just fine. It works and it's green bubbles.
Let me make a clarification. What I think is happening is that Apple iMessage works partly to Apple servers and falls back to SMS if the other end don't have iMessage. But if once Apple learns that your friend has an iPhone, and then that friend quits iPhone and gets an Android, Apple servers may become confused and still think that there's an Apple account for the phone number. So I send from my iMessage program to this phone number. Apple holds the message on your server and doesn't transfer it over to SMS because they think that phone number has or had iPhone. That's what the bug is about.
So I have the iMessage turned off. And I still use the iMessage app, but I have the iMessage option turned off. So that won't happen if one of my friends decides to switch out of their iPhone into an Android.
I think the problem that you're describing has to do with continuing the same conversation. And in mid-conversation, the friend switches to an Android. But if you start a new conversation, there's no problem.
So then I would have to delete my previous conversation in order to start a new conversation, I guess.
I guess so.
But the thing is I don't know. My friend isn't telling me, oh, I got rid of my iPhone and now I'm using an Android.
Well, you could
don't
figure it
know
out
that
if the
happens.
messages aren't going through.
Well,
Hey, any other comments on the DOJ case against Apple? We're kind of hoping to just get some people's opinions here on it.
We don't know enough, I don't think. We don't know enough to
Okay.
comment.
Well, they do dominate the premium phone market. They do. And they do discourage being able to use Android. I mean, they make it difficult if you want to switch from Apple to Android. I mean, I mean, I understand why they do it. I mean, they want to keep you as a customer, and I mean, it's regrettable that they have to play hardball with some of the people that are having trouble with it. But I think the competition is good. I'd like to see Android keep Apple on its toes and keep them from getting lazy. I think the competition is good. I like to see more of it. It could even keep the prices from getting ridiculous. But of course, if you're worried about prices, why am I owning an Apple? I mean, Apple costs more and they make no apologies for it. So, and they control the entire experience. You know, they control the hardware and the software. And I mean, that's the way they've always been, except for the time when Steve Jobs was out and Scully was in, and we had you could run software on Intel boxes. It was interesting. I mean, we had the Power Mac too. I mean, I mean, it is something that you know, you see it happening, and it's going to continue to happen. A lot of companies, I remember I was helping one of our offices. They switched from Quicken to QuickBooks, and they had multiple years of records from Quicken that they brought in. And after a while, they said, we don't like this. Let's go back to let's take the QuickBooks and turn it around and make it into Quicken again. Couldn't do it. And again, QuickBooks and Quicken made no apologies about it. That was their way of, I guess, controlling the market. Anyway, the bottom line for me is, I want to see competition. I want to see people hold their, I want to see the market hold Apple and anybody else that's out there, hold their feet to the fire and get us good products at reasonable prices. And, and if somebody wants to, try to do a crossover or something, don't try to make it as hard as possible for them to do it. But again, we know how they do it. I mean, if they see that you're doing something. Well, gosh, look at what Netflix and password sharing, and they killed that off. And all of a sudden, they got a huge bump in people buying licenses. So I think that's my feeling.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to chime in?
No, I think we need to move on. How about the Freeform?
Yeah. Has anybody here used Freeform? Anybody?
Nope,
How many of you know what Freeform is?
I didn't until our last meeting.
Okay, well, I think our conversation, because I think John, I believe it was you who started this conversation, John, because you saw the video that was that where this started from? And he was showing, I don't remember what he was showing how to do using it. You're muted, John.
John, you're muted.
Okay, I spend a whole $5 a month on MacMost to be a MacMost Patreon member. And he sends out videos that oftentimes either never show up on regular MacMost and are restricted to Patreon members, or they might show up on MacMost eventually for anybody who just goes to YouTube or wherever and looks at them. And I got one of these emails from him as a Patreon member explaining how to set up a photo collage using Freeform. Freeform, best way to explain it that I know of, it is like using a whiteboard. It's it's designed mostly to be a collaboration collaboration app, okay, shared by people, usually in a work setting, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just in a group like ours, where people are combining, contributing ideas toward some joint project. And the problem, so that's because it's mostly groupware, I hadn't taken much of an interest in it. But when Gary Rosenzweig posted this video showing how to make a photo collage, since everybody in this group and just about anybody that's got a smartphone uses photos in some way or another, I thought that using the photo collage would be a good avenue toward presenting Freeform. So that was why I decided, I mentioned this video to everybody else at the officers meeting. The problem being that I wasn't sure at the time. Well, I didn't realize at the time that it was a Patreon members only video. So I checked to see whether it was ever going to be available to members, people who are not Patreon members. Turns out it is not. So that's the reason why we're not sharing that video now, because I'm not allowed to share it with others because I'd be violating the terms of my Patreon members agreement. But basically that was it. I mean, I've been interested in Freeform for some time. I know that everybody's interested in photos, so I figured using photos as an angle toward learning something about Freeform might be a good thing to share at a meeting. But again, because of the restrictions with the Patreon membership, we couldn't just show that video.
So what we are going to do is share a different video here with you, and I'm going to share this explaining what Freeform is and how you use it. And by the way, it is through MacMost and it's one he did this past year when it came out. So let me share that with you guys.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com.
Can you guys
Let's look
hear
at
this?
Apple's new Freeform app.
Good. Okay.
MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So Freeform is a new app from Apple that you can find in macOS Ventura 13.1, iOS, and iPadOS 16.2. We're going to look at it on all three of those platforms, starting with the Mac. So let's launch Freeform here. And when you first do, you'll probably get a welcome screen. And after that, you'll see a blank canvas that is your first board. Documents in Freeform are called boards, and they're basically a blank canvas with no edges, and you can add various elements to them. If you go up a level by clicking the left arrow next to the name of the board, you go to a screen that will show you all of your boards in a grid or list view. And you also see a left sidebar here that allows you to view all your boards, just the recent shared boards or favorites. You can also search your boards for text that's found in them and just double click on any board to go into it. By default, you get this grid view with these grid dots. But you could go to view and you can hide the grid if you'd rather not have those. Let's look at some of the elements you can add. From left to right, you start with sticky notes. And these look like little post-it notes that you could place wherever you want on the board. And you could drag the corners to change the size. You could double click inside and you could write something there. And then you'll see controls underneath while you have text selected. So you could, make the text bold or italic. You could center it or left justify it. You can create bullet lists. You can change the size. And for more, you can go to format, and then you've got a full set of font controls and text controls. You even go to show fonts here and bring up the regular font controls for the Mac. So you could do things like, for instance, change the color of the text. Without text selected, I can just click to select the actual note itself, and I can select from a variety of sticky note colors. You can't set any color you want, only these. You can also drag this around, position it where you want, resize, of course, and you can rotate. If you hold the pointer over a corner and hold down the command key, you could grab it and rotate. And you'll be able to do similar things with all the elements here. Next, you've got shapes. And you have a lot more than just the basic shapes here. In fact, you have all the shapes available in Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. So you can select from a whole variety of different things. And you could add a shape just by clicking on it, drag it around, resize it. Any shape can have text inside it, so you can double click it and there'll be a blinking text cursor in there. You can also select it just by itself, and you can click here to change the color. You could choose from some basic colors or no fill, but you could also click here and choose any color from the color picker. This next button here allows you to set a border. So you can set a border for the entire shape. You can set the thickness for the border, and you could set a color for the border as well. And then like with stickies, you can grab a corner and resize. You can hold command and rotate. You also have the ability to copy and paste styles. So I can create another shape here. Let's do this. And let's say I want to copy this style right here and go to Format, Copy Style, select this one and go to Format and Paste Style. You can also select a shape or other element and go to Format, Save as Insert Style. When you do, this style will be used the next time you create a new shape. Note that under shapes here, you also have some lines and arrows that you can add. So I can select this arrow here and I can change the end. I can change the thickness and then drag the ends to wherever I want. On the Mac, there's no way to simply draw shapes, but you can click here and then use the pen tool. And then you can draw a shape using straight lines or drag to curve a line. This is the same tool that's available in Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Next, we have text. You can select text right there, and it's just a text box, and you could put something in the text here. You have text controls here. You can select just some of the text and change just that text right there. You can change colors as well. You have the full font controls if you want for text. You could also select the text, drag it around, drag a corner to enlarge it. and hold Command down to rotate it as well. Next, we have media, and you can insert photos and videos, photos from your library. So I select a photo, click add. You have the photo in here. Notice it has little rounded corners. You could turn that off under format, rounded corners, and shadow as well. You could turn that off. You can change the size. Underneath, you can click here to crop, and you have the same kind of cropping tools that you do in, say, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote as well. And you could also grab a corner here to resize. Command and drag will allow you to change the rotation, and you can place it where you want. You can also mask an image in a shape by going to Format and then Image, Mask with Shape. So I can mask this inside of an oval, for instance. You also have other options in here, like the ability to take a photo, scan documents, or add a sketch from your iPhone or iPad if they're nearby or connected. You can also add the links. So here you can just type a link to a website and insert, and you get a link that looks like this. You can resize it and it will try to adjust. When you select it, you should get some controls at the bottom. So you should be able to change the link if you want. You can click here to actually go to that page. Note, you can also go to Arrange Constrain Proportions and turn that off. This works for images and shapes as well. Now you can resize it as you want. You could also add a link to a file here. So I can click there, select, say, a regular file like this, and it will add it there, just like a regular link to a web page. But this will actually go to that document. You can also select multiple items by dragging like that and change multiple items at the same time. So I can add a border around all of these at the same time. You also have a lot of arrangement tools. I can select all of those and go to Arrange, and I can align objects, say, to the center, or distribute them vertically like that, and then horizontally as well. So in the iPad, it looks very similar, except that you have one additional tool, and that's the drawing tool. Tap on the pen at the top. Now you have all the drawing tools here. Now, if you have an Apple Pencil, of course, then it's ideal. You can draw with the Apple Pencil as long as you choose one of these drawing tools here, and you can just draw whatever you want. It won't do the thing where, like in Notes, where you can draw a circle and then wait, and it will make a perfect circle. It doesn't have that feature, unfortunately, but you can use a variety of different tools, like a highlighting tool, an erasing tool, a selection tool, and it will select these objects. You could also go to the writing mode with the Apple Pencil and then write. If you'd rather draw with your finger, you've got the option right here to turn on or off draw with finger. And you've got, keyboard, font tools, dictation tools, and the like here at the bottom as well. The rest works pretty much the same. For instance, I can create a sticky note like this, and I can drag the corner to resize it. I can use two fingers on the screen and rotate like that. I've got the same shape tools here. I have the same tools for adding text boxes and for inserting pictures or taking a picture with my camera or scanning from the camera or adding a link or a link to a file. And of course, whatever device you're using, all of your boards here at the top level and Freeform should sync with iCloud. Although note that by default, Freeform seems to be off in iCloud settings. Not sure why that is, maybe just for the first version here. So go into your iCloud settings on Mac, iPad, and iPhone to turn on iCloud syncing. And then you'll see all of your boards across all of your devices, just like you see all your notes in the Notes app across all devices. So on the iPhone, of course, you've got the smallest screen that you're going to be able to use this on. So there are a lot of compromises to be made here. For instance, when you add an element like a sticky note and you select it, notice that your menu items here appear at the bottom of the screen, not underneath it. You, of course, have all the drawing tools, but you're drawing with your finger. There's no Apple Pencil, of course, but in general, it's more or less very similar to the iPad version. So Freeform is not meant to be a document creation app. Pages, Numbers, in Keynote will do all of that better. You have more precision, more control over the elements, and be able to create PDFs, printed documents, images, all sorts of things in a much better way. Freeform is meant to be simple with easy to use tools. It lacks a lot of advanced options, so we use it maybe to gather ideas and to share ideas rather than create a finished product of some sort. For instance, say you were going to go on a trip soon and wanted to get some ideas for places to visit where you're going. So you could easily put some images and text into a document. Say, let's go to a web page here, and you could drag images into the document very easily like that. Once they're in there, you can easily arrange these. You can see how they snap to a nice grid like that. You could add some text to it. Place that where you want. Add a shape. Add some sticky notes. Big part of this is collaboration. So the idea is that instead of working on this document by yourself, you would use the share button right here, and you would invite somebody else to work with you on this. So now two people are working on the same document. If I were to add some more text here, then the other person would see that change. And if I were to change something in this document, then I would see that change reflected over here as well. And you can add multiple other people. When you go into the settings here, you can go to manage shared board, and you can actually change the permissions to anybody with a link. And you can also set it to view only if you like. So you can make changes, but they can just view. There's also some export options. You can go to File and then Export as PDF. And that's the only direct option right there, to create a PDF, which is nice because it'll keep all the nice curves of all the shapes and lines and things that you add. Also, you can go to print if you want. And in addition to regular printing, you can use the PDF option here to open in preview. From preview, you can actually export as an image, say. Now, where Freeform falls on the spectrum of Apple apps is really hard to say because it overlaps quite a bit with Note. You can do most of this with Notes. You can share a note. You could add just about the same elements in Notes. And Notes, of course, has this background body text that you can use. So Notes is better for things like taking notes in meetings and in classes. And you can still sketch on your iPhone or iPad, and you can still add images and all sorts of things. On the other hand, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are better for creating documents. You have more control over what you're adding and what elements look like and where they're placed. And of course, you can collaborate with all of those. So Freeform really is all about making it simple. If you try out Freeform, I'm interested to hear in the comments how you like it and what things you may use it for. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the thumbs up button below. Let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday.
All right, so there you go. That is Freeform. As he said, it does sort of overlap with some other apps, but when this first came out, I thought, oh, well, this is kind of cool. I haven't found necessarily a reason to use it yet, but I think it's an interesting collaboration tool. That if you had multiple parties working on something, you could be throwing ideas up on these boards and then use it. And I think it could be good. Like immediately I thought of, like at the time I was still teaching when this came out. Oh, if my students were brainstorming on a project, they could be sharing that and creating this. Or, if my family, if we're planning a vacation for the summer and we wanted to just kind of be making, ideas and things to put on there, we could have a collaboration. So, and I could see it for work settings as well, being used. So I think there's a lot of ideas. And as John had described to you all before we watch this video, the same gentleman from MacMost did a video on how you can create a photo collage where people can join in and share photos that way, which is kind of a cool idea. So there you go.
Okay, our last thing tonight is Apple TV Plus, and I'm gonna do that.
While Ron's getting that ready, how many of you, anybody who subscribes to Apple TV Plus? Okay, so a number of people here. Okay.
So Apple TV, I find it really useful as far as movies and other, well, I'm sorry, looking at these are some of the things that you can pull. Let me see, I have to click this. Okay. These are all the different things that are there. There's movies, TV shows, documentaries, and a whole lot of different, truly useful and things together and into your television. Any case, stop this share. Okay. So do you see this?
Yes.
It's a subscription TV service. There's new Apple originals every month, always ad-free. You can stream on the Apple devices, smart TVs, consoles, sticks, almost anything connects to your Apple. You watch in 4K HDR video with immersive spatial audio, and a single subscription with shared up to 5 people. If
Hey,
you
Ron,
I'm
are
sorry.
we supposed to be seeing different slides here on this?
No, you're seeing this one.
All I'm seeing is you have like the kind of splash page showing, but it's not a full slide or anything.
I think it's not moving through the slides.
Well, I haven't moved to another slide yet.
Well, we're not seeing an individual slide. We're seeing it like as if you were just looking at this on your desktop and you weren't in presentation mode.
Okay, do you see the thing at the bottom says 3 months free?
No.
Okay, and I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, hold on. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, do this 3 months free down the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. If you purchase an Apple device, you can redeem it for 3 months free in Apple TV. A free 7 trial is for if you sign up for $9.99 a month. And it's a fairly low price for some subscription services. And then if you have an Apple One, you have a free 1 month trial, and Apple One has all those devices in it. You can watch it on anything. Apple TV is oftentimes, if you want it, buy it on your Apple TV, the phone, iPad, Mac, and AirPlay, and all these devices on a smart TV. All of those devices use it too. How can you watch it? Well, it's already on your favorite Apple devices. Just open the app, click the Apple TV Plus, and enjoy shows and movies. If you have, of course, an app streaming platform. What does it cost? We already mentioned those things, but it's a relatively low price for some of this share devices. And I often see too is it's also lets you share with anybody in your family, 5 members. Are there commercials? No, it's commercial free. They have new movies and series added every Wednesday and Friday. So there's always new things there to see. If you have Apple 4K, you don't need that, but it of course, some of the things will I'm sorry. Anyway, can you download? Also, you can also divide those things to your Apple device and watch them anywhere.
Huh.
These are some of the movies that I've seen. Napoleon, I liked. It's an actual movie. And Greyhound was originally like 4 years ago when I first came on to Apple TV. And it's a really good movie with Tom Hanks. When I put this into the post in our website, you can watch any of these things here, and you'll see like devices. Not to say. I don't know that we need to say those anymore. These are the things of it, and it's also kids and family free. I don't have a lot of things here that I actually watch, but if you have grandchildren or children that you watch, Snoopy, they have all sorts of Snoopy things, Wolfwalkers, and all sorts of other things that are kid and friendly free. Drama series. I think last month, Glenn talked about Masters of the Air. If you saw Band of Brothers and Pacific, Masters of the Air is because of continuation of it. It's all about World War II. And
The morning show was good. I like that.
morning show is good. It's been along like 3 seasons now.
Yeah, that was their first kind of big show on Apple TV Plus.
Yes, with Jennifer Aniston and such. Manhunt is a new one on John Wilkes Booth and his conspiracy in killing Abraham Lincoln. Sugar, I haven't seen that, but it's new, and it's Colin Farrell in it. Mystery person, so forth. The Crowded Room, I've watched that. I really enjoyed that. It's by Danny Sullivan. Tom Holland, who plays him, is a person who has multiple personalities. Anyway, it's interesting. Lessons Chemistry, I haven't watched that one, but it's a new one out. And the new look is Christian Dior during the Nazi occupation of Paris. Sci-fi, I like those things myself. Invasion, it has 2 seasons, and it's like it says Earth across the universe. Severance, which I haven't watched that one. Constellation is pretty new. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. I like that one. It's just an interesting thing about Godzilla and Titans and so on and so forth. Foundation, you like the novel that it came from. It's interesting. Yeah. Silo, I really like that one. I kind of watch the new episodes that came out every day. And Extrapolations, it's I don't know who's by this exactly. It's involved in the future if we don't change our extrapolations or now watch the future unfold. Comedy series Ted Lasso, you probably heard of that. It won lots of awards and such. It's over now, but it has 3 seasons. Loot is new. Actually, it's actually last year, and now it's on a second thing. Palm Royal is the new one that's in kind of a buzz. Acapulco is last year. Shrinking is, and The After Party. Prehistoric Planet, nonfiction series Franklin, and I think it's out now or it's out soon. Oh, premieres April 12th. And Bloody Hundredth. Bloody Hundredth follows the Airmen of Masters of the Air, and I'm going to look this one. It's very short, but I don't know if that's going to come up now.
Seconds, yeah.
Airmen from 40 American bomber groups bled and died in staggering numbers in air combat.
We're only hearing the video or the audio, excuse me.
Okay, I've got to stop the share, I guess, and chop the other one. Let's see. Okay.
While you're checking it, that the third series of it, Pacific, really super good because you can follow the people all along that are in it and the results and the battles that go on. I think they did a better job on that of following the people that are in it. I think the last one, Masters of the Air, you kind of lost the people, their names and where they were and everything. That's just my opinion.
Have you seen this one?
I haven't watched that one yet. I've got it on my list though.
Okay, does it fill your screen?
Yes.
Airmen from 40 American.
Do you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually a short thing, but this is like where Donald says the people, but this is actually the people that were in Bloody Hundredth. And they actually had interviews with none of the people that were there, which I don't know exactly how they did that. It obviously those people are like 100 years old now, so they must have done it a while back, but in any case.
Bomber groups bled and died in staggering numbers in air combat. One of these groups suffered so many casualties, it became known as the Bloody Hundred. The men and the women of the Air Force really paved the way for air superiority over Germany.
People we served with sacrificed everything. They called us the Bloody Hundredth. Yeah, it's broken up a little bit.
Yeah. I do recommend if you're interested in that to watch the series Masters of the Air first. And that's what I did. I finished the series and just I haven't gotten around to watching this documentary now.
The documentary, they just they talk about the people that are in there and what actually happened to them and which came back. And a few of them that are quite old, they spoke to a few of them, Ron, when you were asking about that. But they talked about, like they would say, I'm making it up, John Smith, after he came home, became an electrical engineer and joined the government to help develop the new B-2 bomber or something, that's what they did. It's just kind of a follow-up to Air Masters and what happened. And, it's like about 40 minutes. I still like Pacific the best. I'm sorry.
It's true, but they're all done by Tom Hanks and Spielberg, yeah. And it's all of Apple's things. You'll find the I'm hearing something, but anyway,
It's something in Robert's background there. Just go ahead, Ron.
okay. The
I was gonna say, I'll throw out two shows I know that you didn't have in your thing that I would recommend to people. First of all, in the sort of history slash sci-fi, but and one of their landmark shows was For All Mankind, which reimagines the space race in the 60s during the first season, and then they go beyond that, sort of taking that reimagination and then kind of, okay, well, what would happen from here going all the way, into the 2000s. And I've thought that's been a pretty interesting show. I've watched that. I think it's 4 seasons that they've had, and there'll be another season. I thought that was really good. Another one that I liked is called Tehran, and it's about an Israeli spy in Iran. I thought that one was pretty good as well.
Tehran is terrifying. She's brilliant. The woman in that is brilliant.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. I enjoyed it.
Well, all of Apple's things are production values are really good. It's very professional done, and actually quite the actors that are taking that.
Well, and they certainly use a lot of big name actors as well for projects. That's for sure. And Ron did mention kids stuff. I know
stupid kid.
my son and I have watched a bunch of, he loves the Snoopy and space stuff. And we've also watched a number of other of like all the old Peanuts stuff that you guys would probably remember. All that content is on there. And at first I was very skeptical when Apple started this, because I wasn't sure, is there really going to be enough on here that's interesting? And I can't say I've liked, there's a lot of things that I really haven't found interesting, but there's been certainly enough for me to, that I feel like it's worth having the subscription. I mean, I have this as a part of my Apple One, family plan, but and there's also the other thing, and pardon me, Ron, if I'm stealing your thunder a little bit, but there's a lot of live sports on through Apple TV now.
Oh yeah.
So,
Friday night baseball games are all there.
Yeah. I know some things you have to buy subscription. Like if you want to watch St. Louis City, there's an added package that you have to buy, but that's all through, Apple TV Plus as well.
One minor point, Glenn was talking about the series For All Mankind. I think what he meant to say, maybe didn't quite get it out, was that it is it's an alternative history based on the assumption that the Russians get to the moon before the US does.
Yeah.
And in real life, the Apollo astronauts laid a plaque on the moon saying something to the effect, "We came here in peace for all mankind." So that was a phrase that the thing was based on. So what happens is that there is a tremendous effort put forth by, we all know that, the space race, there was all kinds of money appropriated for various kinds of technologies. We needed to beat the Russians into space. We needed to beat them to the moon, and so on and so on. This show builds on that expenditure of funds, and the rate at which technology improves, the rate at which rocket technology and so on improves is amazing. In the second season, they have I don't quite want to say colonies, but they have, I guess I will say there's colonies on the moon. They discover a way to mine it for minerals. And so there's a revolution in the in ancillary technology. There's even a scene that takes place within the context of this show, and I think the about the mid-1980s, where they're showing electric cars. A guy pulls up in front of the NASA headquarters and plugs in his electric car. So the rate, the rate of technology increase presupposed by that show is amazing, not just for rocket technology, but it kind of spreads out over into other science and engineering fields. So it's quite interesting to watch that. It's also quite interesting to watch the machinations between the various presidents and presidential candidates and so on. So it's quite a well done series. I do hope that there is another season, because it was in the last season, we're in the early 2000s, and there are colonies on Mars. They're extracting minerals on Mars and bringing it back to Earth. So the rate of technological improvement is amazing. And like I say, I'm hoping that there's another season so we can build on that.
Fiction.
You know,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say my only real knock against Apple, TV Plus, and I would expand this to the whole Apple TV app, is I'm not a huge fan of the interface of it. I don't find it to be the most user-friendly interface. I think that it could be simplified. I also think it's sometimes hard to go back and find shows that you've watched previously, but maybe haven't been on for a while, because they want to throw up everything you've watched, because Apple's tried to make that like the hub of your TV watching experience, both in the Apple TV app and for your other apps that you stream. And so sometimes I think I've heard people talking about how it's confusing, because you're thinking you might be looking at something in the app, but that's really from a different app. And then it takes you zipping out of there to another thing. And so I think that just the interface and the way it's put together, at least me personally, I'm not a huge fan of. I think it could be simplified and improved upon.
Agreed. There are also a few features in the programs from Apple TV Plus, with closed captioning and things like that, which if you're watching something in Apple TV Plus, many times closed captioning or some feature like that will be available. So then you switch over to some program that's on, let's say, Discovery Plus, and you're looking around for the closed captioning, it is not there. Or not necessarily, not to pick on them, but some other streaming service. Now we have an Apple TV hardware that's connected to the television, and we just to watch anything on Apple TV Plus or Discovery Plus or Disney Plus, we just use the app that's on the Apple TV device, okay? Because our smart TV is not quite smart enough to have those things built in. But as I say, I agree with Glenn about the confusing interface. At the same time, there are some somewhat advanced features that you get in the Apple TV programs that you don't necessarily get in the other services.
Yeah, John, I agree with the closed captioning, by the way. That kind of stuff is really easy to access, whereas there are some things you're like bewildered how to figure this stuff out, but it's once you know where to look for it on there, it's pretty easy to find that stuff.
Yeah. Maybe the DOJ will bitch at Apple and tell them to make closed captioning available on Disney Plus.
I gotta watch the beginning of this.
That was a nice selection of a nice summary of programs were on. I had forgotten that some of those series were on. That there's such a variety. There's comedy and drama, historical things. So thanks for presenting all of those. I had forgotten about some of those titles.
Well, and if you wanted to see any of the well, I don't want to call them.
I believe that one called Manhunt about the assassination of Lincoln, I think has already started, and I've read several good reviews of that already.
Yeah, and there's always new ones out all the time. And sometimes I watch them and sometimes oh no, not that yet.
My wife and I watched Lessons in Chemistry, and that's an excellent one. The girl is very brilliant, and when you have somebody that brilliant in the 1950s, it's really hard for them to get to move forward. So I recommend that one.
Yeah, that was one I was thinking about trying with my wife as well, thinking she might want to watch that.
Oh yeah, she'll like it. Yeah.
FYI, the organic and biochemistry presented in that program is spot on.
Anybody watch Reacher?
Yeah, I've seen that, but that's not in Apple TV.
Prime.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh God, what's the other ones?
Unlike the little man who paid Reacher in the movie, this guy looks like Reacher should look. If you remember the little guy, he's 5'2" and he's playing Jack Reacher. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although I guess from the expressions I could see not everyone has read Reacher, so.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, guys, that's it for me.
I'll let you know I have joined, but I can't figure out how to turn my video on my phone. This is Alan.
Oh, it was on earlier.
Well, we're about to call it a night, so we.
Oh, I've been watching for an hour, but I just it was very good. The other one thing Apple TV I liked was the blind girl, or the sighted. Oh, it was deaf, wasn't it? Yeah, she was among a deaf family. I forget the name of it.
I
Very
haven't
good
watched
show.
that one, but yeah, it was there.
I'm looking forward to the series about Benjamin Franklin.
Oh yeah,
Same here.
that's just coming out.
Yeah, it starts like this Friday.
Yeah. Oh, Lessons in Chemistry was good, but it didn't match what the book had in it. I think the book was better.
Well, I would say that's usually the case.
Yeah.
By the way, on that note, I was very happy. I introduced my son to the novel The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
And we read that. And, you know, I loved it as a kid. So I have the C.S. Lewis box set, The Chronicles of Narnia. And so we read it. And then he wanted to watch the movie. He saw there was a movie. So we watched the movie. And afterward, I said, well, which did you like better? Did you like the book or the movie? And he said the book. I was very psyched about that.
That's good to see.
Yeah. Well, and he fought me at first. He did not want to read it. I'm like, just trust me. And I said, let's read one chapter. Tell me what you think. And we read a chapter. And I said, what do you think? He said, well, why don't you read a little more? I'll let you know. And, you know, read again. Then he didn't want me to put it down. So
Peace and goodwill, all. See you later.
Take care,
All
Lyman.
Thank you for everything.
All right.
Okay.
Tonight.
I'll have to watch the first hour of this later. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
By the way, Alan, we could see you before. It's just now that you're not on here.
Yeah, we saw you for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we did.
It says your microphone is muted. Your video is stopped on the screen. I slide over.
It is now, but your hands were up by the screen like this. You know.
I don't know.
Touch
I couldn't see
something.
myself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See everybody next month.
Good night.